So, you've got yourself a few mics and now you're looking to record some bands. You're now what we call a recording engineer. If you're in this position, I'm gonna make an assumption, you're probably mentally ill. Hey, it happens to the best of us, but no one who's mentally well wants to do this position. If you aren't mentally ill, you're either A, lying, or B, you're gonna feel it anyway soon, because just like most of the industry, you're gonna be overworked, it's gonna be high stress, you're gonna have long hours, low pay, low recognition, and you just have to deal with divas and dickheads. I'm being dramatic, however, it is very easy to ignore your mental health when working in a position like this. That's why I'm here to give you a few helpful tips. Of course, there's a lot of nuance in this discussion, and it can depend on what genre you're in, where you are in the industry, where you are socioeconomically. There's a lot of factors that go into that. So I'm just gonna let you know I'm coming at this from like a DIY alternative perspective, but a lot of what I can say applies across the board. I'm also gonna assume you have a little bit of knowledge about being a recording engineer, or else you wouldn't be watching this.
And I know who's watching this.
Anywho, this video is split up into 4 major sections: before the session, during the session, after the session, and just kind of a miscellaneous category, because you know, there's some other stuff in your life. Some of what I share is just going to be best practices on how to work as a recording engineer and not specifically about mental health. However, in a position like this, best practices can also be mental health practices. And you might be asking to yourself, well, what are your qualifications? Well, I have this microphone, I have a mixing console, I'm talking to a camera at 3 a.m., and I have way too much time, so I think I know a little bit about this life. Now with that out of the way, Section 1, before the session. It might not seem like it to an outsider, but before the session can be incredibly stressful to anyone, especially if you're inexperienced. Whether you're booking studio time or you're just going into someone's garage doing it DIY, what saves your mental health is going to be the same thing that saves Batman: preparation. Communicate with the band beforehand to get a clear idea of what they're going for. This is going to involve getting album references and song references, and if you can, try to get them to explain why they reference those things. This can be great for just like building your relationship with the band, because musicians love talking about our favorite music, but it also helps you because now you know what exactly they're going for and you don't have to play any guesswork, and that saves a lot of stress. When you get your references, I cannot stress this enough, actually listen to them. Put them in a playlist with songs you reference, listen to them in the car. You don't have to go overboard. However, you do need to get ideas of what you need to do. That way you aren't stressed when the studio comes along. That leads me to my next point: prepare, prepare, prepare. Have ideas of what you're going to do and how. If you're going DIY, know what gear you have and know how you're going to use it. If you're booking studio time, look at what the studio has. Research how your artist's references got their sounds. You need to know what you're doing before you go in. Having a written down plan helps to mitigate a lot of stress day of. Moving away from audio, square away with your client the details on payment and how you need them to prepare for the studio before you ever step foot in that studio. The last thing you want to do is work an 8-hour session and not get paid a dime. Additionally, you're eventually going to have to deal with artists who are inexperienced or young, and they probably don't know how to play to a click. Thus, you should let them know what you're expecting of them before they go into the studio. That way, if they do fuck up in the studio, you can shift the blame to them. That's not on you, baby. Lastly, before the session, try to show up early if you can. Depending on where you are and who you are, you might not be able to go into the studio early. However, just getting there early to just sit in your car and center yourself is plenty enough, because you're going to be having a long, stressful day. If you have the time, I'd even recommend centering yourself at the console or within the studio after you're in there or after you're set up. That just lets you get into a good mind space. That leads us to Section 2, during the session. When dealing with bands or artists, you need to be accommodating to their needs. Let them experiment a little bit, allow them to do a few takes, do different approaches, whatever. Ultimately, it's their art, not yours. That being said, it is your job to capture their art. That's why I suggest with a client working kind of like how a nurse does. You need to be firm and accommodating. A nurse accommodates all their patients' needs. However, when they tell you to get up, you're getting up. Be firm, but accommodating. Additionally, while time is money in the studio, it's also good to let your artist take breaks, especially if they're struggling to get the take. Try to be aware of where an artist is, if they're getting frustrated, and if you notice those signs, let them take a break. That will make any take after that a lot better. Personally, I've noticed it takes about 5 full takes for an artist to get frustrated in that way, but your mileage may vary. Again, when you see the signs of frustration or the takes just aren't good enough, encourage the artist to take a break. But when you encourage them, try not to make it sound like it's they're playing that shit, even if it is. Ideally, a break for them is a break for you. And if it's not a break for you, you can at least work on something else within the recording. That way you're not hyper-focused and stressed on one specific issue. If you get the chance, take a break to stretch, walk around, and if you're lucky, look outside. Being cooped up in a studio all day is not good for your body, so it's good to get a few moments in to really look after it. As the old saying goes, what's good for your body is good for the soul. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but try to stay mindful of how you're talking to your clients. Try to be respectful with your critiques and your criticisms. You never know when the talkback mic might be left on and now the guitarist can hear all your complaints about their tone and their shitty playing, and now they're outside smoking a joint mad at you. The quickest way to ruin a session and a relationship is by talking shit behind their back. In this position, you're gonna deal with some artists who just cannot play for shit for the life of them. You're also gonna deal with some artists who will nail the take the first try without even hearing the click track. And you have to be able to show both of them respect. That's how you get paid. Additionally, if you're working with any artists that are just really stuck in their way, a little bit of lying is okay. Say you have a vocalist who doesn't want to double track their vocals, or you have a guitarist who you're not sure if they're going to want to quad track the guitars, just hit them with the classic line of, "Sorry, something happened with the recording. Take that from the top." Sometimes, a little manipulation is okay. As a treat. Lastly, it should go without saying that you should eat and drink well throughout. 3 white monsters and an Uncrustable is not sufficient to get you through an 8-hour session. I should know. But hey, you made it through the session. That brings us to section 3, after the session. Now that the session is done, one thing I'd like you to try is to center yourself and then start journaling about the session. Try to identify what did and didn't work during the session. This could be audio problems, chemistry, whatever. Feel free to get as bitchy as you want. There's a good chance you will not be famous enough for anyone to be reading this, and if you take my tips, you're probably not going to die young enough for them to want to read it anyways. At this time, you also need to evaluate probably the most important question of after the session. Do you want to work with this band again? Seriously. Reflect upon this, take as long as you need to, but this is the most important part of this. Do you want to work with this band again? One of the easiest ways to ruin your mental health as a recording engineer is working time after time for clients that you do not like. You can make this decision based on numerous factors, and it's all up to you. Did you think the vocalist was a little bit bossy? Was there a little bit of weird band infighting? Did they waste your time a lot in the studio? Did they give you the runaround to have to get your payments? Was the vibe just not it? Whatever you decide, it's up to you to figure out your boundaries, and it's up to you if you want to continue working with them after you finish the job. Ultimately, whatever you decide, it's probably valid. Again, you're essentially a freelancer. Speaking of finishing the job, make sure you get paid. Nothing helps my mental health more than dollar bills, y'all. And that brings us to our final section. All the other moments. Despite your job as a recording engineer, you're not spending all of your times within sessions. You will get downtime, and you need to make sure that you're taking advantage of that downtime. Make sure to keep a healthy life balance. Food, sleep, all that shit. If you're getting booked enough, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the studio, so you need to make sure that your body is well enough to be able to take those long hours when you're not on. Take inventory of the equipment you have and how you can utilize that equipment for your clients. This little bit of work helps you prep for sessions better and can really help you whenever you have a last-minute session where you just don't get a lot of prep time.
Make friends and keep up with them.
Seriously, it's easy to get caught up in the world of clients and money and all that, and it's really easy to alienate yourself from your friends. Some of your clients will also be your friends, and that's perfectly fine, but you do need to make time for the people in your life that aren't just your clients, people who aren't paying you. Unless it's a client that's actually not paying you, then don't make time for them. Lastly, give yourself time to indulge in your own outlets. It can be exhausting working to serve other people's visions all the time, so work to support your own, no matter what that might be. Hell, it could just be trying to get the world record speedrun in cat% for the 2004 Japanese real-time strategy game Phantom Dust for the Xbox. I'm not here to judge. However, if that is what you're going to do, back off, that's my fucking thing. The music industry is rough, especially as a music engineer. In the studio, you have one of the most important jobs, however, you're often overshadowed by the producer or the artist themselves. Hopefully, though, this guide helps you maintain your mental health a little bit better in the music industry. Patience and preparation are your two biggest friends. Additionally, you need passion. There's always a chance that you won't make it, so you have to ask yourself, can I envision myself doing what I am doing right now for the rest of my life? If the answer to that is yes, I think you'll do just fine. Thank you for watching. See you next time.